Search this site. Show more information. Show mobile navigation list verse logo. 10 amazing films of famous figures from the early 20th century. Many people wonder how late 19th century famous figures might have sounded and moved, what sorts of gestures they may have made, and what kinds of facial expressions they might have displayed. Born in the Victorian era, these 10 people saw the birth of new recording technology. Now, some early films of such renowned men and women have been converted to videos available on government or museum websites or popular internet video sharing platforms. Each of these 10 early films of turn of the century, the 20th century, that is, celebrities, brings history to life as it shares glimpses of a famous man or woman who contributed greatly to our own time and lives. Related, 10 bizarre entertainments of Victorian London. 10. Anne Sullivan and Helen Keller. Rare. Helen Keller and Sullivan 1930 newsreel footage. In a sequence from a 1930 newsreel film, now on video, Anne Sullivan, 1886 to 1936, explains how she taught Helen Keller, 1880 to 1968, to speak. Keller, who is also present in the film, demonstrates. Her student, Sullivan says, had been blind, deaf, and mute since she was 19 months old. It was a mystery to Keller how Sullivan and others managed to speak without using their hands, as she herself must do. By teaching Keller to place her hand over Sullivan's face, the teacher showed her student how we talk with our mouths, letting Keller feel the vibrations of the spoken word. In response, Keller immediately spelled the message, "I want to speak with my mouth." With her thumb on Sullivan's larynx, her forefinger on her teacher's lips, and her third finger alongside Sullivan's nose, Keller could discern the various vibrations of sounds, those of the hard G and the K on her thumb, the V and the T sounds on her forefinger, and the nasal sounds, such as M, on the third finger on Sullivan's nose. The first word she learned to speak was it. After 7 lessons, Keller was able to articulate the sentence, "I am not dumb now," as she does in the video footage while smiling in delight. 1. 9. Pablo Picasso. Watch Picasso make a masterpiece. In an excerpt from French filmmaker Henri-Georges Clouzot's documentary Le Mystère Picasso, The Mystery of Picasso, Pablo Picasso, 1881 to 1973, draws a picture for the camera filming him. The video, posted by the Royal Academy of Arts, begins with an image of Picasso's finished painting visage, head of a faun, before showing him actually creating it in 1955. Stop-action and time-lapse photographic techniques allow Clouzot to capture the artist's process as Picasso begins drawing with a black marker and the resulting images bleed through the paper. As he works, Picasso's drawing undergoes a series of spontaneous metamorphoses, from flower to fish, to chicken, to face. Dark, heavy lines are introduced over and among the finer lines he is already committed to the paper. Picasso looks intent as he begins to paint around the drawing, filling in the negative space with dark blue and using thick strokes of green paint to outline the face on the side of the flowerfish chicken's body. At this point, Clouzot, consulting his wristwatch, advises, 45 seconds left of the 5 minutes total that are represented by the 450 feet of film being shot. Time enough remains to add some red to the hybrid face's nose, which doubles as the hybrid creature's wing, its leafy branch of a tail, its eyes, and its leaf-like wattles. The filmmaker cheats, allowing Picasso a bit more time than the original 5-minute limit.
Furthermore,
The artist colors the ground red. 8 seconds, Clouzot announces, and Picasso brushes black over most of the strange creature before creating a trio of twig-like human figures that seem to grow out of the earth. Then, the filmmaker orders his camera operator to quit filming. 55 years later, the video announces that Picasso's painting is restored for a Picasso and paper exhibition. 8. Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein explains E equals mc squared, #shorts. Although Albert Einstein's 1879 to 1955 famous equation E equals mc squared is well known throughout the world today, it was revolutionary when he first articulated the idea that energy and matter are interchangeable. To hear Einstein himself state the implications of his famous equation is, nevertheless, impressive. Initially, the video showing the mathematician's explanation appeared in 2011, many years after formulating it in 1905. Apparently reading from notes, he states that it followed from the special theory of relativity that mass and energy are both, but different, manifestations of the same thing. He adds that such a notion is apt to be a somewhat unfamiliar conception for the average mind. Then, presumably to help his audience grasp the significance of the equation, he defines its terms, E, m, and c squared, energy, mass, and the velocity of light squared, respectively. He does this before explaining that a very small amount of mass may be converted into a very large amount of energy, and vice versa, since the two are, in fact, equivalent. For those of average mind who may be skeptical of his explanation, he tells listeners, with just a hint of a smile, that the equivalency of mass and energy was demonstrated by John Douglas Cockcroft and Ernest Thomas Sinton Walton in their 1932 experiment. 3. 7. Mata Hari. Images and a fragment of footage of Mata Hari. According to the History website, after her marriage, plagued by infidelity and domestic violence, crumbled in divorce, her son's death, and losing custody of her daughter, Margaretha Zell, 1876 to 1917, moved to Paris.
This has been a presentation.
She was seeking to reinvent herself so she could live like a colorful butterfly in the sun. Incorporating moves she'd observed during her time in the Dutch East Indies, she created a Hindu dance act, appearing first as Lady Gresham MacLeod and then as Mata Hari, or Eye of the Day. Realizing that she lacked dance skills sufficient to draw a crowd, she compensated by casting off items of her colorful costume until, at the conclusion of her dance, she was nearly nude. People came to see me because I was the first who dared to show myself naked to the public, she said. The details of Mata Hari's espionage career remain sketchy. However, it seems to have begun, if, indeed, it began at all, in the fall of 1915, when she allegedly accepted honorary German consul Karl Kromer's offer of money to spy for the Kaiser under the German codename H-21. On February 13, 1917, she was placed under arrest, charged with espionage, and confined to Paris's infamous Saint-Lazare prison, where she was interrogated. Although she admitted to being a courtesan, she denied ever having spied. Despite the flimsy circumstantial evidence, she was convicted, and on October 15, 1917, she was executed by a firing squad at age 41. The footage of Mata Hari humanizes the exotic dancer. Despite her later admission of having been a prostitute, her work as an exotic dancer, and her conviction for spying for Germany during World War I, she appears, in this earlier video, as simply a well-dressed, beautiful young lady. Wearing a long, pleated dress with a large hat, stockings, and high heels, she is helped into her long winter coat by a soldier who then helps her into the back seat of an automobile that has arrived to collect her. Perhaps the soldiers in the front seat are taking her to the spy school. The video's narrator mentions her having to attend as a condition for receiving the funds she needs to return to Paris. 4. 6. Marie Curie. Marie Curie receives ACR Gold Medal. Marie Curie's celebrated career and award-winning accomplishments are summarized by the Nobel Prize website. In her youth, Marie Curie, then Maria Sklodowska, 1867–1934, of Warsaw, Poland, was trained by her father in scientific study in addition to her general education before moving to Paris after involving herself in a students' revolutionary organization. Finding it prudent to leave the city, she continued her education at the Sorbonne, where she met Professor Pierre Curie. They married a year later, in 1895. She earned her Doctor of Science degree in 1903 and, working with her husband, isolated both polonium, named after the country of Marie's birth, and radium. She also encouraged using radium as a medical treatment for alleviating suffering. During World War I, she remained focused on this work with the help of her daughter, Irene. In addition, a Nobel laureate twice over, Madame Curie, as she was also known, served as a member, a professor, or a director of various professional and scientific organizations throughout her career. Despite both her many accomplishments and the fact that she was held in high esteem and admiration by scientists throughout the world, she remained, as the Nobel Prize website describes her, a quiet, dignified and unassuming woman throughout her career. Her reserve and modest demeanor are on display in the video conversion of the 1931 Path News film strip showing her gracious receipt of yet another award bestowed upon her, the Art Gold Medal.